The Plum in the Golden Vase Embroidery Chongzhen Edition Chapter 87. Mrs. Wang is greedy for money and forgets misfortune. Wu Du kills his sister-in-law to sacrifice his brother. Poem says, "You sigh in my heart, the world is in chaos, and everything is different." The survivors asked for news, but the dead were dust and mud. When the humble family is defeated, the strong man returns. After walking for a long time, I saw empty alleys, and the sunset was miserable. But when he meets a fox or a raccoon, his hair stands up and his canthus is split in anger. I have a bracelet with an engraved sword, and I have a lot to say about it. It is said that Chen Jingji stood up and asked Zhang Tuanlian to accompany him. He planned to go to Tokyo in the morning. However, Wu Yunyang sent Pan Jinlian out, and the next day Chen Hong called Mrs. Su to sell Qiu. Chen Hong was walking to the street when he bumped into Count Ying. He stopped and asked, "Chen Hong, where are you going?" Chen Hong said. The aunt asked the young man to call the matchmaker Zhu Sauer. The count asked, "Call the matchmaker." "What?" Chen Hong said. "The girl who sells Qiu in Wu Niang's room." The count asked again, "Why did you send Wu Niang to get married?" This is what Chen Hong said, "Because you have some conversations with my brother-in-law." "I know." I sent away Miss Chen Mai first, then beat my brother-in-law and drove him home. After hearing this, the earl nodded and said, "So you are. Wu Niang and your brother-in-law have a son, and no one can come." Then she said to Chen Hong, "My dear, your father is dead. What are you doing at his house? Are you going to go back to the south? It's better to find someone to follow you here," Chen Hong said. "That's what I said. Dad is gone. The aunt at home has closed all the businesses and sold the house. Tunger and Hua Tunger are gone, and they can't attract so many people. I want to go back to the south, and I don't have anyone to take me with me. There's no way to find someone to follow me in this city." The count said, "Silly, my child, I have no foresight and I am not secure. What are you going to do in the south? You know a few words in your heart. I am worried that I will not find a master in this city who will agree to it. Now Zhang'er's father's family in Dafeng has tens of millions of dollars, which can make up for your father's job in Tixingyuan. Now your mother has become the second wife of his family. I will send you to his house." Zhang promised that when he saw that you could sing southern songs, he would go to the top of the pile and leave you as a personal follower, which is no better than in your home. He has a good nature, is young, and is suave. Hobby, you are a talented person. Chen Hong fell to the ground and kowtowed. You are tired of the second father. If you meet Mr. Zhang, you can buy a gift and kowtow to the second father. He took Chen Hong by the hand and said, "Silly boy, get up. There's no one in me who doesn't want to be an adult. Are you willing to thank me? Here's the money you got." Chen Hong said, "The little one is gone. I'm afraid the eldest daughter in the family will do it." "What's wrong with the little one?" The earl said, "It doesn't matter. I want to ask your father, Zhang, to give him a tael of silver. Send it away." After saying that, Chen Hong went to Zhu's house and called Zhu's wife. Seeing Yunyang, he brought Qiu out. He only sold it for 5 taels of silver and handed it over to Yunyang. But he said that Earl Ying had led Chen Hong to see Zhang Erguan at his house. Zhang Erguan saw that he was handsome and could sing southern songs, so he agreed to stay. Then he took by tear, sealed a couple of silver coins, and sent it to Simon King's house to ask for his box. That day, Wu Yunyang was having wine with Yunli's wife, Mrs. Fan, at her home. First, Yunli Shubu was working as a colleague at King Halef Guard. When he saw that Simon King was dead and Wu Yunyang was a widow, he had something in his hand, so he started to covet it with peace of mind. On this day, I bought 8 plates of soup and fruit as gifts and came to see Yunyang. Seeing that Yunyang gave birth to brother Xiao, there was also a daughter in Fan's room, Fang Erior, who wanted to marry Yunyang. After drinking wine that day, the two families cut off their shirts and became in-laws for their children, leaving a pair of gold rings as a betrothal gift. I heard that Diana brought Zhang'er's official post and 1 tael of silver and said that Chen Hong had agreed to go to his house and send someone to ask for his suitcase and clothes. When Yunyang saw that he was the executioner, she had no choice but not to talk to him, and she didn't accept the money, so she had to take the box out with him. At the beginning, Earl Ying said to Zhang Erguan, "Pan Jinlian, the 5th wife of Simon King, is born beautiful and can play the pipa. She is proficient in all kinds of lyrics and music, chuanglu chess, and can write. Because she is young and can't keep it, she has sex with him. Auntie Hachi, I will send it out now to get married at Wang Po's house. This two-in-law official asked the family to go to Wang Po's house to take the silver. Wang Po only recommended that his eldest wife should pay for it, and she didn't ask for 100 taels. Silver. The man talked back and forth several times, and when she reached 80 taels, Mrs. Wang still didn't spit out her words. After Chen Hong arrived at his house, Zhang Erguan heard Chen Hong say that the woman was raising her son-in-law at home before sending him out. The second official didn't want this piece of paper, and said to the earl, "My family now has a 15-year-old boy studying in school. What do you want a woman like to do here?" He also heard Li Zhaoer say that Jin Lian used poison in the first place. The man was manipulated to death, and Simon King took over his future home. He also stole the servants, ate the sixth wife and her two sons alive, and killed him. With this, Guanzhong doesn't want it anymore. The words are divided into two parts. But Chen Mai was sold to Xu Bei's house. Xu Bei was overjoyed when he saw that he was handsome, smart and charming. After living in 3 rooms with him, he sent a little maid to rest in his room for 3 nights. In 3 days, 2 sets of clothes were cut for him. Zhu's sister-in-law went and rewarded Zhu's sister-in-law with 5 coins. He also bought a maid to support him and made him his second wife. The eldest lady is blind, eats long fasts, chants Buddha's name, and doesn't care about other people's business. There are also biological sisters, children and grandchildren, who live in the East Chamber. Chen Mai was in the West Wing, and she taught him to take charge of all the keys, and she doted on him very much. One day, I heard Mrs. Zhu say that Jin Lian came out to marry Mrs. Wang at her house. The spring plum blossoms cried at night and said to the guard, "My mother-in-law has been staying together for these years. He is not grand. He cares about me and treats me like his own daughter. I just want to separate him. I don't want him to come out today. If you are willing to marry him, my wife will still be together and live a good life." How good-looking he is. He knows all kinds of lyrics and music, and he can also play the pipa. Smart, handsome, and intelligent. The person born in the year of dragon is only 32 years old now. If he comes, I would rather be the third one. So he changed his guard and asked his men to follow Zhang Sheng and Lian to seal to handkerchiefs and to coins and go to Mrs. Wang's house to see him. Sure enough, he was a good boy, excellent woman. Wang Po said that his eldest wife wanted 100 taels of silver. Zhang Sheng and Li, and talked for a long time and returned 80 taels. The old woman refused and asked for 100 taels. It's just a matchmaker's money. God will not make anyone empty, and had no choice but to take back the silver and report it to the guards. After missing it for 2 days, how could Chen Mai cry at night and cry? At least I can add a few more taels of silver, marry and be a slave, and I will be willing to die. When the guards saw that Chen Mai was just crying, he had to send another butler. Zhou Zhang, the same as Zhang Sheng's Lian, took the silver in the felt bag, opened it and looked at it with his mother-in-law, and added to the 90 taels. The mother-in-law became more and more nervous and said, "If it's 90 taels, I won't be able to get it now. Zhang Er's father's family will carry the punishment." Zhou Zhang became angry and asked Lian to wrap up the money and said, "The 3-legged toad is nowhere to be found, and the 2-legged wife can't be found. This old whore doesn't even know anyone. What do you mean about Zhang Erguan's house? The father in my house can't control you? You're not a new marriage." The young lady repeatedly said to the master that she wants to marry this woman. "What use does he have to make for all this money?" Lian said, trying me back and forth again and again. The old slut is getting more and more arrogant. He pulled Zhou Zhang and said, "Steward, let's go back to the house and tell the prisoner to take it and give him a good beating. This woman was still greedy for Chen Jingji's food. Let him scold you." Just without words, when the two of them arrived at the mansion, they reported back to the guard and said, "I have added 90 taels, but I still refuse." The guard said, "I will pay him 100 taels tomorrow and bring him up in a sedan chair." Zhou Zhang said, "I will go with him. For 100 taels, Mrs. Wang still wants 5 taels of matchmaker money. If he loses his money for 2 days, he will be afraid if he gets Zhang Zi and beats him up in the house." The judge heard that Duan Jinlian was born. If you have a place to die, you will have a place to die. You can't help but be told these two words by Zhou Zhang. There is a separate relationship. This woman has done something in the past, but now she is not in the mood to come together. There is poetry to prove it. Although life is unknown, who knows the causes of misfortunes and blessings? Good and evil will be rewarded in the end. It's just a matter of whether they come early or come late. Press 1 end. Shan Bo Wusong was thanks to Zhao Guanaying for his kindness and care since he was sent to prison in Mingzhu. Later, Shi En competed with Zhang Mention for the Happy Forest Hotel and was injured by Zhang Mention. Young Wusong stepped in and beat Zhang Mention. Unexpectedly, Yulin, the sister of Zhang Mention, married Zhang Dujian as a concubine to win over Wusong. On the pretense of being a thief, Wusong was tortured and sent to Anpingzai to be exiled to the army. Wusong walked to Fei Yunpu and killed two more men. Then he turned around and killed Zhang Dujian, Zhang Mention and the whole family, and fled to Shi En's house. Shi En wrote a letter and sealed 100 taels of silver in the suitcase, telling Wusong to go to Amping village and Shizai Liu Gao to take care of him. Unexpectedly, he heard on the road that the prince established the East Palace and issued a general amnesty to the suburbs. Wusong went home when he was pardoned and went to King County to register. He still worked in the county as an Aaron and also served as the head of the capital. When I came home, I found my neighbor Yao Yilong and handed him over to Yinger. Yinger was already 19 years old at that time, and he took her into his family and lived together. Someone sued him and said, "Simon King is dead, and your sister-in-law has come out again. Now she is still at Mrs. Wang's house, and she will get married sooner or later." This man held back, and he had old grudges in his heart. Exactly, it takes no effort to get there even if you wear iron shoes. The next day, when I was getting dressed, I walked past the head of Wang Po's door in the next room. Jin Lian was standing under the curtain. When she saw Wusong coming, she hurriedly ran into the room. Wusong opened the curtain and asked, "Is Mrs. Wang at home?" The old lady was polishing her face and quickly came out and said, "Who is calling me?" Seeing that it was Wusong, she said, "Wonderful blessings." Wusong sang deeply. The mother-in-law said, "Second brother Wu, I'm so happy. When did you come home?" Wusong said, "I came home yesterday when I was pardoned. I'm always tired of looking after my mother's house. I'll thank you someday." The mother-in-law said with a smile, "Second brother Wu is better than before. He has a shaggy beard. He is in good shape. And he learned to be so polite outside." He asked him to sit down and order tea. Wusong said, "I have something to tell my mother." The mother-in-law said, "What do you want?" Second brother Wu just wants to talk. Wusong said, "The people I heard said that Simon King is dead. My sister-in-law came out. Live here in your old man's house. Don't you dare bother your mother and tell your sister-in-law that it's fine if he doesn't get married. If he does get married, if Ying's son grows up, he can go to his sister-in-law's house and take care of Yinger. Sooner or later, he can find a son-in-law and live together as a family. I don't teach people to make jokes." The mother-in-law didn't say anything at first, so she said, "He is here with me, but I don't know whether to marry him or not." After hearing him thank him, she said, "I'll make peace with you slowly." He said, behind the curtain, the woman heard Wusong's words that he wanted to marry him to take care of Yinger. She also saw that Wusong had grown taller and fatter and could speak better than before. She was still loyal to him and thought to herself, "My marriage is still in his hands." She couldn't wait for Wang Po to call her, so she came out, bowed to Wusong, and said, "Since your uncle still wants me to take care of Yinger and find a son-in-law to start a family, you know it's a good idea." Wang Po said, "I have one thing, but his eldest lady wants 100 taels of silver before she can marry." Wusong said, "If why do you want so much?" Wang Po said, "Master Simon, you paid a lot for him in the beginning, and you can even get him with just this silver man." Wusong said, "It doesn't matter. Since I want to invite my sister-in-law to my house, I'll just pay 100 taels. I'll give you another 5 taels of silver." When the old woman heard this, she was so happy that she kept saying, "Wu Urge is so polite. He has seen a lot in the martial arts world in recent years. He is really a hero." After hearing this, the woman went into the house, ordered another cup of strong melon seed tea, and handed it to Wusong with both hands. The old woman asked, "Now his family is in a hurry. And there are 3 or 4 official families vying for a marriage, but they all refused to pay the price. You should pay the silver as soon as possible. As the saying goes, the first to eat is the first to eat. A marriage is a matter of thousands of miles, so don't let it fall into the hands of others. The woman said, since you want to marry me, uncle, please hurry up. Wu Song said, come to exchange the silver tomorrow, and invite your sister-in-law to come in the evening. The old woman still didn't believe that Wu Song had the silver, so she agreed casually. The next day, Wu Song opened the suitcase, took out the 100 taels of silver from Xian and the chief of the camp Liu Gao, and wrapped another 5 taels of broken silver. He went to the old woman's house and used the scale to exchange them. The old woman saw a table full of silver and said nothing, but thought to herself, although Chen Jingji promised 100 taels, I went to Tokyo to get it, but I don't know when it will arrive. I'm looking up and closing, and I'm going to cast a bell when I see the bell doesn't ring. Seeing the 5 taels of silver, she thanked him and quickly took it. After bowing again and again, she said, Brother Wu is the one who understands people's hardships. Wu Song said, Mother, take the silver and invite my sister-in-law to marry you today. The old woman said, Brother Wu, you are so impatient, putting flowers behind the door. Can't you wait until it's too late? Wait until I pay the silver to his aunt before sending him away. She said again, you are naked today, and you will be a bridegroom tonight. Wu Song felt uncomfortable. The old woman didn't know what was good for her and ridiculed him again. After sending Wu Song out, she thought to herself, his aunt just asked me to get rid of him, but didn't agree on the price with me. I will just give him 10 or 20 taels of silver. Even if he is a ghost, he will get more than half to support his family. She cut off 20 taels of silver from the silver and went to Yu Niang's house to make the deal clear. Yu Niang asked, who married her? Wang Po said, the rabbit ran along the mountain and returned to its old nest. She married her brother-in-law and ate the porridge from the old pot. Yu Niang secretly stamped her feet when she heard this. As the saying goes, enemies see enemies, their eyes are especially sharp. She said to Meng Yulu, she will die in the hands of her brother-in-law in the future. That man will not stop until he kills someone with his eyes. Not to mention Yu Niang sighed home, but Wang Po paid the silver and went home. In the afternoon, she asked Wang Chao to send the woman's box, cage and table over first. Wu Song had already packed up at home, prepared wine and meat, and arranged vegetables. In the evening, the old woman led the woman to the door, changed into mourning clothes, wore a new bun, wore red clothes, and covered her head with a veil. When she entered the door, she saw that the main room was brightly lit with candles, and Wu Die's spirit tablet was re-erected on it for worship. At first, she was a little suspicious, and her hair seemed to be pulled by people, and her flesh seemed to be hooked. After entering the house, Wu Song told Yinger to lock the front door and the back door. When Wang Po saw them, she said, Brother Wu, I'll go now. No one is home. Wu Song said, Mom, please come into the room and have a drink. Wu Song told Yinger to put the vegetables on the table, and soon he heated up the wine and invited the woman and Wang Po to drink. Wu Song refused to stop and poured the wine. They drank 4 or 5 bowls of wine in a row. Seeing that he was eating badly, the old woman said, Brother Wu, I'm drunk. Let me go. You two can eat at your leisure. Wu Song said, Mom, stop talking nonsense. I, Wooer, have something to ask you. With a swish, he pulled out a 2-foot-long broadsword with a thin blade and a thick back from under his clothes. He held the target with one hand and covered his forehead with the other. He opened his eyes wide with strange eyes, his beard standing up, and said, Don't be surprised, old woman. Since ancient times, every wrong has its perpetrator and every debt has its creditor. Don't blame it in your sleep or dreams. My brother's life depends on you. The old woman said, Brother Wu, it's late at night. It's not the right time for you to play with a knife or stick when you're drunk. Wu Song said, Stop talking nonsense, old woman. I am not afraid of death. Wait until I ask this whore. Then I will slowly ask you, old pig. If you move a step, I will beat you with my knife 5 or 7 times. He turned his head and looked at the woman and scolded, Listen, you whore. How did my brother get murdered? Tell the truth, and I will forgive you. The woman said, Uncle, Why are you so angry? It's unreasonable. Your brother died of heartache. What does it have to do with me? Before she finished her story, Wu Song stuck the knife into the table, grabbed the woman's bun with his left hand, held it with his right hand to her chest, and kicked the table, smashing the plates and cups to pieces. How could the woman have any strength? The man gently lifted her up across the table and dragged her out to the spirit table in the outer room. Seeing that the situation was not good, the old woman ran to the front door, which was bolted again. Wu Sung caught up with her with big strides, grabbed her to the ground, and tied her with the belt around her waist, and tied her hands and feet like a monkey offering fruit, so she couldn't get away. She just kept shouting, "Don't worry, Captain. The lady did it herself. It's none of my business." Wu Song said, "Old pig and dog. I know everything. Who do you blame? You told Simon King to send me to the army. How can I go home today? Where is Simon King? If you don't tell me, I will skin this whore first, and then kill you, old pig and dog." He picked up the knife and slashed at the woman's face twice. The woman hurriedly shouted, "Uncle, please spare me. Let me up, and wait for me to tell you." Wu Song picked up the woman, flayed her, and knelt in front of the spirit table. Wu Song shouted, "Whore, tell me now." The woman was so frightened that she had to confess the truth. She told him how she had beaten Simon King by pulling up the curtain, how she had made clothes and married him, how she had kicked Wu Da in the heart, how Wang Po had instigated him to poison her, how she had arranged for him to be burned, and how she had married him. She told him everything from beginning to end. When Wang Po heard it, she secretly complained, saying, "You fool, you told me the truth, but I am still trying to evade you." Wu Song grabbed the woman with one hand and poured wine with the other hand, lit the paper money, and said, "Brother, your ghost is not far away. Today, Wu Song will avenge you." The woman saw that the situation was not good, so she was about to shout. But Wu Song threw a handful of incense ash into the stove and stuffed it into her mouth, so she could not shout. Then he smashed her head and tore her to the ground. The woman struggled, and her hairpins and rings fell off. Wu Song was afraid that he would struggle, so he kicked his ribs with his oiled boots, and then used his hands to spread his chest. In a split second, he stabbed the woman's heart with a knife, making a bloody hole, and blood gushed out. The woman's eyes flashed, and she stepped on it with her feet. Wu Song held the knife in his mouth, and used both hands to open his chest. With a sound, he tore out his heart, liver and other internal organs, and offered them in front of the spirit. From behind, he cut off his head with a knife, and blood flowed all over the ground. Yinger and her daughter saw it and covered their faces in fear. Wu Sung was really cruel. Poor woman. She was just 3 inches of air, and she could do 1,000 things. But one day she died. Everything was over. She died at the age of 32. But where the hand went, the young died. And when the knife fell, the beauty died. The 7 souls have gone to the hall of hell. The 3 souls have gone to the city of indignation. It is like the heavy snow in early spring crushing the golden willows, and the strong wind in December blowing off the jade plum blossoms. Where does this charming woman go? Whose house does her soul fall to tonight? There is a poem by an ancient poet, mourning the bitter death of Jin Lian. It is really pitiful to mourn Jin Lian, taking off her clothes and kneeling in front of the spirit. Who knew that wooer would kill her with a knife, thinking that Simon was just playing with leggings? The past is just a dream, and my life is not worth a penny. In this world, one life is paid for another, and retribution is clearly before our eyes. When Wu Song killed the woman shouted, "Murder!" Wu Song heard her shout, stepped forward with a knife, and cut off her head. He dragged the body over. At the same time, he inserted the woman's heart, liver and 5 internal organs with a knife under the eaves of the back building. It was the first watch at that time, and Yinger was upside down in the house. Yinger said, "Uncle, I'm scared." Wu Song said, "Child, I can't take care of you." Wu Song jumped to Wang Po's house and wanted to kill her son Wang Chao. Wang Xiaohei didn't deserve to die. When he heard his mother shouting, he knew that Wu Song was committing a crime. He pushed the front door, but it didn't open. He called the back door, but it didn't answer. He ran to the street to call the guards in panic. The 2 neighbors knew that Wu Song was vicious, so no one dared to go forward. Wu Sung jumped over the wall and went to Wang Po's room. He saw that the light was on and no one was in the room. He opened Wang Po's box and threw his clothes all over the floor. Of the 100 taels of silver, only 20 taels were given to Wu Yunyang. There were 85 taels left, as well as some hairpins, rings, and jewelry. Wu Sung packed them all. He picked up a broadsword, jumped over the back wall, and went out of the city gate at 5 o'clock in the morning. He hid with Zhang King and his wife at the Cross Hill, became a thief, and went to Liangshan as a bandit. It is just like this. If you don't do anything frowning in your life, there should be no one in the world who will bite you.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.